Hello, it's Patrick Dwyer and Greg Poole here again at Aligned Wealth in Miami. And we are going to talk about a really cool subject, which is one of my favorite, is what is the impact of driverless cars?
It is one of your favorites.
It is because I think it's really happening right now. And so this you're looking at San Francisco, and what you're looking at is a city in the middle of this massive shift. Uber, Lyft, and Waymo, a robo taxi with no driver. I've been in them. And over the last 2 years, something pretty clear has happened. People are choosing the driverless car. Right now, it's one city that the trend is pretty obvious.
Yeah, and we're getting them here in Miami, and everybody's so excited to get off the wait list at Waymo. So, the thing, though, that most people think is, okay, Uber and Lyft have a new competitor. That I think that's the story that most people see.
Yeah, it's not the story. The story is going to be the serious impact this is going to have in the economy. And this is what we've been trying to talk to clients about, how we want to have a broader allocation in our investments, because this disruption coming is almost unknowable, but we're going to try to think about some of that disruption today.
Because you've seen this in all industries, but you have, the real question is what happens to an industry when it's built on an assumption that humans drive, right? Because when the driver disappears, it's not just ride hailing that breaks. You have auto insurance, it's a $350 billion industry. You have truck drivers, you have parking, you have all these areas that are tangential. Dealerships, service, body shops, personal injury lawyers. I mean, it's a wide range of things.
It's a lot of stuff. And we mapped out every industry in what we refer to as the blast radius. So for the first industry in the blast radius, Craig.
Yeah, so we did look at the most direct, which is Uber and Lyft in San Francisco. But if you zoom out and look at every driver in America whose income depends on getting a passenger from point A to B, you're talking about 2 million people.
Wow. And that's a lot of humans in the crosshair.
Yeah.
And it's not a future prediction. Like Waymo now holds majority market share in San Francisco operating though. That's like really a thing. It launched in 2024. Now it's LA, Phoenix, the companies they're entering Miami. They're all over my neighborhood. Every city Waymo enters, Uber's drivers' incomes compress. And the thing about robotaxis that makes this different from prior tech disruption is it's not just cheaper, it's structurally cheaper, right? A robotaxi doesn't tip out, doesn't take a lunch break, doesn't call in sick, doesn't require 40% margin. Uber needs to pay its drivers. The cost structure is just totally different because you've eliminated the human.
Yeah, this is just the people moving passengers. Let's scoop like what happens when you're talking about moving goods.
Yeah.
So this is 3.5 million drivers, 6 companies. I think the math here is brutal. So this is what's happening right now. Aurora, which is running commercial driverless freights on the U.S. highways as of May of 2025. No safety driver, no one in the cab, 250,000 driverless miles across 10 routes. So you have Kodiak Robots, 3 million autonomous miles logged, 5,200 paid driverless hours. You have Gatic is running the first at-scale, large, fully driverless commercial deployment in North America, running orders for Walmart, Kroger, with $600 million in contracted value. And so you got a whole bunch of companies coming behind that.
Yeah, Semi is everything. So there's 6 companies. They're all at sort of different stages, all pointed at the same job. And the economics make it obviously why. A human truck driver costs somewhere between 70 grand and 90 grand a year in wages alone, right? And that's ad benefits, insurance, turnover, big problem in that space. And you're well over $100,000 a year per driver of a truck, right? A driverless truck runs 24 hours a day, doesn't need a hotel, doesn't need a break every 8 hours, doesn't have a drug problem. The math is like, it's pretty brutal. So 100K plus 24 hours a day.
Yeah. And that's the workforce of 1.5 million truck transportation employees at the peak. You've been contracting already, but I think this will be a structural break on top of a workforce that's already softening.
Yeah, and so I think what people get like way too like crazy about is they're like, oh, you're exaggerating. This doesn't happen all at once. No, it doesn't. No, the things people miss you're not going to replace all these drivers overnight. That's not going to happen. But if you take 20% of the long haul routes away, the straightest, most predictable miles, and then hand them to an autonomous driver, that's hundreds of thousands of jobs gone before a single city street gets touched. Really think about it differently. Like if you're trying to negotiate your wages and this is out there, it's just putting downward pressure on wages.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say the progression is kind of happening as you'd expect. It's starting with Aurora is on the interstate. You're starting with the highway first, then getting closer to the city, but eventually you're going to be everywhere.
Yeah. 1.5 million in truck transportation alone, 3.5 million when you count every commercial driver on the road, and 6 companies with a very clear business case to replace all of them.
Yeah. So we've got ride hailing, we've got freight, but there's something much bigger. So let's talk about the part where the economic machine built around car ownership starts to fall apart. So take us through that.
The big reveal. The $1.57 trillion built on habit that's about to break. I talk about this all the time because I have actually half my team has a Tesla. They're cheap, and I have FSD, and it drives me most days. Everything we've covered so far, ride hailing, trucking, there are the obvious targets, the industries you'd expect. This one is different. Car ownership right now, Americans own 250 million vehicles. Very expensive.
It's a lot of cars, and there's a lot of debt on those cars. So you got the 1.57 trillion in outstanding auto loans. So that's the financial system that's built on top of car ownership. And you can see it's actually been growing almost without interruption since the 70s. So every year, Americans take more debt to own a depreciating asset that sits apart 95% of the time.
Yeah, so you're going to have this like choice, right? You're going to be able to go, would I like to have a car loan and debt and all the other stuff and take care of my car and everything else? Or would I rather just pay a few dollars and go wherever I want to go, whenever I want to go there? And the pricing already reflects where this is going. Even at the early stage, Tesla is already undercutting Uber by roughly half in its first market. Let me say that again. Tesla is undercutting Uber by half in its first market, which is Austin. This is like what I've been really focusing on. No surge pricing, no tips. The price is the price. And that's before the economics fully kick in, meaning the driverless cars will just keep getting cheaper.
Yeah. So what's the time frame you think that we're thinking about that? So
I mean, this is a chart here that breaks it all. I mean, a human driver Uber today costs $2.80 per month, right? That's owning a personal car when you factor in payments, insurance, gas, maintenance, depreciation, runs about 80 cents a mile. So a robotaxi at scale by 2035, ARC projects it's going to be 25 cents a mile. So like, it's going to be really hard to justify having a car if you live like in a big densely populated area, right? That's less than a third of what it costs to own a car. At 25 cents a mile for most people in cities and suburbs, the math of owning a car just like goes away, right?
Yeah, it's a real step function, right? Because it's like when somebody has insurance on a car and then they don't, it's not like it gets cut by half. It's gone.
But let's think about all the things you're going to limit it. If you were paying for a car, you had a loan. So you have insurance, registration, maintenance, parking for something you use 5% of the time. When a robotaxi is cheaper, always available, and you never have to park it, why would you own anything?
This is going to hit a lot of different areas. It's going to hit dealerships, auto loans, insurance. I mean, it hits a whole ecosystem that I think, people don't especially spend a lot of time thinking about it because it's been such an essential part of our lives for so long. But it only exists because people get behind a wheel and make mistakes.
Yeah. Personal car ownership, otherwise, it doesn't just hit dealerships and auto loans. It's going to hit the whole ecosystem. And the people who have never thought about it, the one that only exists because humans get behind the wheel and make mistakes, it's just going to be crazy. And you've heard me say this before. It's one of the reasons why I'm really, really, really bearish on Europe, because their number one business is auto parts and autos, and driverless cars are electric cars with very little. The new Tesla taxi costs $30,000 to build. It has very few parts. It'll cost less as time goes on.
So basically, we're saying when you remove the errors, you remove the human, you remove the error. When you remove the error, you remove a lot of these industries. So you have 127 million fully autonomous miles, no human behind the wheel. And what Waymo published is pretty staggering. Vehicle-to-vehicle intersection crashes down 96%. Single vehicle crashes down 94%. Pedestrian injuries down 92%. Cyclist injuries down 83%. Almost every category where the data is statistically significant, Waymo is not slightly safer. It's not marginally safer. It's meaningfully safer. And even though most people are still nervous, or many people are still nervous to get into a driverless car, the data suggests they really should be more nervous to get behind the wheel.
Yeah. And look, this is one company, one data set, early days. I mean, remember, this is the worst it'll be. It's going to get safer, right? It's not going to get less safe. It's going to get more safe. But the direction's clear. Autonomous vehicles are going to be dramatically safer than humans. And the moment that that becomes the norm, and people really believe it, and I do believe it because I drive one, an industry built entirely on human error starts to unravel. It's going to be very bad for all the new fintech startups, excuse me, not fintech startups, but the legal startups who are just focusing on like even up car crash claims.
Yeah.
Like that business is going to be gone like fast.
So maybe we'll take a look at how enormous are the industries that are going to be hit.
Yeah, maybe try to scope that for us. Yeah, it's auto insurance is obviously, the first thing comes to mind. $359 billion a year in premiums. State Farm alone is $67 billion. Progressive, $60 billion. That's my insurance company. The entire business model is built on one assumption. Humans drive, humans crash, humans pay premiums to cover the risk. You remove the human error, you remove the risk. You remove the risk, you remove the need for the premium. A robotaxi fleet doesn't need personal auto insurance. It needs commercial fleet coverage at a fraction of the cost because the crash rate is a fraction of the cost.
Yeah, I mean, Buffett has kind of said that for Geico, autonomous driving, it's an existential threat. And so Berkshire's third largest insurer, 41 billion in premiums, and their chairman's telling you that this business model is at risk.
Yeah. But insurance is just the most like obvious visible thing. Look at all what else is built on top of crash. The crash business. I mean, with the crash economy.
Yeah. Yeah, you have the claims adjusters, you have appraisals, that's 300,000 plus. You have almost 200,000 auto body glass repairs, 170,000 insurance sales agents for the autos. Like you said, personal injury attorneys or tire practice built on auto. And we'll see less billboards, I guess, as well. But tow truck operators, EMTs, add it all up, and it's over 1 million Americans whose job exists because cars crash.
Yeah, I mean, body shops don't fix cars that don't get hit. Like that's what I mean. Think about how much time we've all spent a lot of time at body shops. Personal injury lawyers don't have cases without injuries, right? Tow truck operators don't get called when there's no accident, right? They also don't get called if you're not parking your car. Right? You're in the wrong place. The whole ecosystem is downstream of human error behind the wheel, and it's really wild. And driverless cars are like extraordinarily good at not making human errors.
Yeah. So, look, big numbers, $360 billion industry, 1 million jobs, all built on this idea that humans make errors. So, let's shift now to another area that you talk about a lot, and it's an area that's been an amazing place to be for as long as I've lived. Parking.
Yeah. Like I was like, this, like we talk about all the problems we have with not enough land and cities are expensive, but there's going to be some new space available. There's $1 trillion of land sitting under idle cars. And we've talked about jobs, we've talked about insurance. Now I want to walk you through something that's going to reframe how you see every American city you've ever walked through. And this, so what you're looking at here, this city parking map, this is Miami, right? Right where we are right now. Every red block is land that exists exclusively to store idle cars. 18% of downtown Miami is for that. Not buildings, not parks, not housing, parking lots.
And that's not even the worst. I mean, other cities, Las Vegas is a third, Arlington's 40%, Detroit's 31%, Atlanta's 26%. Miami's actually on the lower end, and it still looks like this.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And that's just the surface parking lots. Parking Reform Network's map only tracks what's visible through aerial imagery, right? Structured garages, underground parking, driveways aren't even counted. So the real number is like much, much bigger than this, and it's just going to be vacant.
Yeah. So we think there's somewhere between 800 million and 2 billion parking spaces for the 250 million registered vehicles. So, that's 3 to 8 spaces per car. And in the most car-dependent American cities, anywhere from a third to over a third of the downtown footprint isn't building, isn't parks, isn't housing, it's parking lots.
Yeah. So a robotaxi, by the way, the current Teslas are supposed to be able to, supposedly shortly, as soon as it's legal, my Tesla will drive me to work and then it should go home. Like I can send it back home to park at my house. Like, so I don't have to spend $200 to park it in the building. A robotaxi doesn't need to park where you are. It just drops you off. It drops you off and it goes somewhere else. It picks up the next rider. Or one robotaxi can do the work of 10 to 15 personal cars, and you don't need 8 spaces for vehicle. need almost none, and suddenly 18% of downtown Miami doesn't have to be parking anymore. That's a lot of space.
That's a lot. So I mean, the real estate implications from this are huge. I mean, it's a trillion. It could be $1 trillion story. You have land in the center of every big American city, basically caved over to store machines to idle 95% of the time. So, the good news is housing, parks, mixed use, commercial space, all of this becomes possible when the parking goes away.
Yeah, and it doesn't happen like all at once. Like it's not we're not saying like, oh my God, you're gonna wake up tomorrow, this is gonna happen, but it's gonna happen pretty fast. And that's actually the key to thing to understand. Look at self checkout, 3,000 stores in 2021, 7,000 2022, 10,000 2023. It just keeps going up, and year after year, driverless vehicles are the same kind of curve, and it's gonna happen.
Yeah, like look, Waymo is in San Francisco, LA, Phoenix, Austin, coming now to Miami. And Aurora is doing freight on U.S. highways today. Tesla launched robotaxi service in 2025. So I think the first rung of the adoption curve is definitely in motion.
Yeah, and every year, more cities, more routes, like more fleet vehicles. The price per mile keeps dropping as utilization goes up. ARC projects 25 cents a mile at scale by 2035. 25 cents a mile. So it's 80 cents a mile right for you now to have a car. That's when the math on car ownership just totally breaks, and it becomes like kind of doesn't make any sense, and the erosion starts well before that. But this is really ultimately going to raise living standard.
Yeah, obviously, and productivity, because think about, I know how much you get done in a car that you don't drive, and so all that time. But look, we'll see. Dense cities are going to feel it first. Suburbs will follow as the fleets expand, and then ultimately the rural areas will see it. But this is happening. It's moving through stages the same way that self-checkout moves through retail and continues to move through retail. So we'll see it. So maybe let's kind of turn to why does this matter for your wealth?
Yeah, and you want your financial advisors, by the way, to be thinking about these things. This is really important. If your financial advisor doesn't have like this kind of, they're not thinking through these things, they're not very good at what they do. The world is changing under your feet. So this is why we spend time on topics like this. It's not because driverless cars are interesting. Yeah, they really are. It's because this is total disruption at scale. It's structural, it's multi-industry, it's compounding, and it's exactly the type of thing that looks obvious in hindsight and is invisible to most people when it's happening. It's not what they're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, even the industries that are affected the most. I mean, I'd say taxis didn't really see Uber coming. Film wasn't well prepared for streaming. Retail didn't see self-checkout, and ultimately Amazon also disrupted them massively, and then one-day delivery. So, these are things changing, and then all of a sudden they become obvious from the curves, which are supposed to kind of really expand. And so we think autonomous vehicles are in the same place, the first rung to motion, but it's not yet obvious.
Yeah, and for us, the implication is what it always is: humility, diversification, patience. We don't know exactly when the 25% a mile robotaxi flips the math on car ownership. We don't know which of the 6 trucking companies survives the shakeout. We don't know whether parking, real estate windfalls benefits REITs or developers and municipalities, but we know what the direction is.
That's right. And knowing the direction is enough. That again, we kind of want to make sure your portfolio isn't concentrated in the industries on the wrong side of it. Auto insurance, dealership real estate, parking. Some of these have been amazing businesses, but maybe they won't be. So, and companies that have balance sheets that were built for super stable businesses, these may not be so stable. So, it's really important to have really widespread diversification.
Yeah. And if you're thinking about what disruption at this scale specifically means for your specific portfolio, your allocations, your real estate exposure, your equity positions, that's exactly the kind of conversation we're here to have. We'll walk you through it. And, you should look through our videos. You can actually see our past performance. It's phenomenal. And, we're very bullish on the future. We're not bearish. It's just, profits are going to grow up over time. This is going to be a productivity revolution, but it will come with a lot of change, and there will be a lot of money lost as we go through these shifts. A lot of money lost.
That's right. So we want our funds to be on the right side of this. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like our videos and reach out with any comments. We'd love to hear.
Thank you so much.